Hello and welcome to Long Beach Lens. I'm your host, Derek J. Simpson, Executive Director of the Long Beach Community Action Partnership. Today's guest is the Director of the Homeless Outreach Program Integrated Care System, or HOPICS. Please join me in welcoming Veronica Lewis. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Good, good. I've been trying to get this interview with you for a while because
Yeah.
we'll talk about how you and I met. But first, I want to share, and for you to share, how you became director of HOPICS.
Sure. So the company, the HOPICS, is attached to Special Service for Groups. I've been with them for 15 years, and I first came in actually helping other nonprofits and small organizations learn how to build their capacity so they can compete for funding. And subsequently, my first actual direct service manager job was a lot of the reentry services, so helping men and women coming home from state prison figure out how to really adapt and come back into society. And that led to me promoting to associate director, and then ultimately, when my predecessor resigned almost 9 years ago, I was the next in line for the role. So it was just kind of progression of promotions until I got to this place.
Right. Well, I'm sure that progression was because they saw something in you that they really felt the organization needed.
Oh yeah, I've always been passionate now,
Right.
and I'm very boisterous and,
Yeah.
and committed. And
Right.
I'm here because I care about the people we're serving.
Right, which allows you to be great at what you do, as people will soon find out as a result of this interview. But before we go any further, I know it was first just HOP, and then the ICS was added on to HOPIC. So
Right.
for those who don't know about the organization, share how it was founded by Mr. Mike Neely, as I understand it, but a little history on what the organization is.
Sure, just briefly. So we're 30. We celebrated our 30th anniversary last October. We're very proud of who we are and our story. But our founder, he's always been brilliant. Shortly after he came home, he served in the military. Due to addiction and other things, he found himself living on the streets of what at the time was developing into becoming what we now know as Skid Row. And so obviously there was a flurry of interest by the city and the county to figure out how do we deal with this growing, dense area of people experiencing homelessness. And Mike tells a story that he started to go to the meetings because they were serving donuts and coffee. And then he started to listen to what they were saying and realize like they don't know how to reach the folks living on the street. And so while he was still homeless, he was able to secure a $60,000 grant to have himself and other very recently formerly homeless or people that were still possibly homeless walk the streets of Skid Row, homeless outreach program with these bright gold shirts and these bright gold hats, to walk the streets providing information and resources in a way that they knew people would receive them because they had been on the other side. And we were the first to use like the Nextel two-way technology, and the reason they wore bright gold is because of safety, right? Because there was a lot of elements. And so homeless outreach program, we were HOP for years. And obviously we started to evolve as an organization and add things related to substance use disorder treatment, behavioral health services, and a lot of other things. So we added the ICS, the integrated care services, because we really started to become a multi-service organization.
And that was because you were seeing firsthand not just the people who were homeless, but what some of the causes of homelessness were,
Right.
as well as more effectively addressing them and just giving them food, but actually helping them get out of that situation, I would imagine, as
Right.
well.
All of our services are complementary, and as I'll talk a little bit later about all the things we do now, they all intersect in one way or another.
Right, right. Now, before we began this interview, we were just chatting, and you were talking about the fact that people need to understand that homelessness is not just a monolithic existence. It's many variables that contribute. Share your thoughts on that.
Sure. So unfortunately, we find ourselves in a space where, due to rising rents and salaries not keeping up, and just all kind of factors, economic factors, we have so many different people from different walks of life finding themselves unstably housed. And so I think it's really important. Naturally, a lot of people, when they think about people experiencing homelessness, they think about people that they see on the side of the street or people pushing baskets. And certainly those folks are visibly unstably housed. But there's so many men and women that look just like me and you, that go to work every day, that take great care of their children every day, and their children go to school, that don't know where they're going to sleep at night, or sleeping in their cars, or sleeping in abandoned buildings. So it's important for people to understand and be compassionate, because everybody deserves a place to lay their head. regardless of their economic status or decisions they've made in their life. But homelessness, the face of it looks completely different than it probably did about 20 years ago.
And it's growing. I know that I just heard that Santa Ana was having issues about possibly not opening up a particular homeless shelter that they were thinking about down there. And it's in Long Beach and areas of the city that you didn't traditionally see maybe as many homeless you do now. So it's not an issue that's going away readily. The community needs to really step up and understand those dynamics, right?
Yeah, and I think the other thing for people to understand is people that are living on the street or unstably housed, they're a part of the community, right? And so sometimes you hear these NIMBY terms like get out of my community, get out of my neighborhood. But a lot of times my response to that is, well, they went to the same high school as you did. They literally, this is the community they are connected to, and you happen to have a roof over your head and they don't. And so I think if people start to understand this is their community as well, maybe they'll start to be a little bit more compassionate, because it's not just in one place. Although Skid Row existed because 30 years ago, people were pushing them to one place, right? Because they really didn't want to see visible homelessness. But people that are unhoused come from all walks of life, and they are in the communities that they identify with.
So I believe in that adage that you need to start where you are and use what you have. If a person is saying such things as, you don't want them there, what can that individual do to take more ownership in helping to address the issue of homelessness? Because all of us have to be involved at some level.
Right.
But what would your response be to that individual who may have happened to go to high school with a person such as that's homeless now?
I think if people start to look at homelessness as a humanitarian issue,
right.
As opposed to they're on the street because they did this, or they're addicted to this, or they made this decision, and understand that many people living on the brink are maybe 3, possibly 6 paychecks away from being destabilized themselves. I think that's the start, looking at it from a humanitarian perspective. And the other thing I say, and I know it sounds very minor, but if you've been a person that has not demonstrated any compassion thus far, just start slowly. You don't have to talk to anybody living on the street, but I would just say just look them in their eye. Because one of the biggest things that we hear from people that we serve as we go out on the street and provide sandwiches and mend their wounds and do all this other stuff is they're just grateful for somebody identifying that they're an actual human being and trying to do away with some of the isolation that is felt by living on the street. So if you don't want to say anything, if you don't want to give any money, if you don't want to volunteer, just start by looking somebody in the eye and recognizing them as another human being living on this earth.
When you say something like that, I just think about all the churches, all the humanitarian efforts, all the people who are self-righteous in whatever ways, or think that they're doing the right thing, and yet just something as simple as treating a person with dignity and respect can make all the difference in the world. Amazing that it comes down to something so simple as that, but so great an impact. You engage the homeless as well in the outreach and the services that you provide. Why is that important, and what impact does that have?
Yeah, so Hopics, we're decades old at this point, and we have been, outreach has always been a cornerstone of our work. And because we've always felt that you can't just sit in your 4 walls and expect people to walk through your doors to help them. So we're very proud that in the last 3 years, we have significantly expanded what we mean when we say outreach. And so on any given day, I have more than 40 men and women comprised of nurses, mental health specialists, addiction specialists, people that were formerly homeless themselves, case managers going to where people are, not only like encampments where there's groups of people, but also people that are living in isolation on the street. And it's important because a lot of people are jaded. They've had poor experiences with our system. Our system, quite frankly, has not always been designed to serve them well. It's been designed for outcomes. And so it's important that we build trust, build rapport, and meet folks where they are. Because some people aren't even willing to have a conversation or tell you their real name until they understand that you really care about them. So we could literally provide all kinds of service, buy all kinds of stuff, do all kinds of things for somebody, and encounter them maybe 40 times before they even tell us their real name, and we still serve them because we're trying to build rapport and trust. But it's important to meet people where they are.
When you talk about policy and public policy, what are some of the things that you feel are important that you guys are addressing and will address in that regard? Because I know ultimately policy has a big impact on how systems can be created.
We're in a really good time now where not only is there political will and obviously a significant amount of public investment, including from the taxpayers, right, who voted for Measure H and Prop HHH and those other types of initiatives. But we're in a good time because folks like myself are able to come to the table and have discussions about how antiquated policies have really created more barriers for people trying to get help than serving them. And so the descriptions that I just gave of the outreach team is one example of that. Mm-hmm. We've never had a program where you don't have to dot all these I's and cross all these T's before you can even just provide a service. And so I think we're in a good space. We are regularly advocating for flexibility, for low barrier type of eligibility and enrollment processes. And I mean, the other biggest thing, as you said, the homelessness issue is growing. More people are falling out of housing at rates that I think were unpredicted, and we didn't realize what happened in the last 3 years. And so one of the things we're really pushing for is prevention and early intervention so we can stop the inflow of people who are becoming destabilized now.
Lots of work going on. Quickly before we go to break, I want to ask you if there's an organization out there that is trying to do more in terms of working with the homeless issue rather. How do you guys mentor and work with them to kind of expand that village of help?
We have a lot of partnerships. There are a lot of partnerships, and because again, even when Mike Neely started walking the streets of Skid Row all those years ago, it was all contingent upon the network, right? So I said we provided information and referral when we were just HOP, information and referral to collaborations we had made. So that is another cornerstone of the work that we do. So there's probably 3 main ways that we do it. One, we are one of the largest nonprofits, and so we have a lot of money coming through, but we recognize we can't do everything, so we subcontract a lot. So that means the money we get, we pass through primarily, one, to either have people in different parts of the geography be able to serve as satellite sites, or if one of the organizations serves a niche population, we'll pass money through. And in some cases, we're having to incubate and do a lot of technical assistance. Another way we just have a lot of community partnerships, especially with a lot of the churches that are coming on board and kind of grassroots organizations that have never had access to funding. And we do a lot of trainings. We do a lot of like one-on-one technical assistance.
Hold that thought, because
Okay.
I want you to complete it, but we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will continue our conversation with Veronica about what Hopix is doing in our community. Stay tuned for more of Long Beach Lens.
Want to make a video? Check out our content crash course. In 3 hours, you get a plan of production, film your ideas, and edit a finished product. Each class focuses on a different genre, style, or show format, such as short films, how-to videos, talk shows, music videos, and more. Check out patnet.tv for the latest theme of the class.
Life is a series of unfortunate events. Your boss throws a coffee cup at you, your partner breaks up with you, your car gets damaged by a pothole, your landlord ambushes you, your credit card maxes out, your car insurance expires, your stomach is rumbling because of all the food in the fridge has gone stale. It takes a lifetime to figure out your life, but it only takes one day to figure out how to use a DSLR. Take a break from the unfortunate events.
I love Long Beach.
I love Long Beach.
I love Long Beach. I love Long Beach.
I love Long Beach.
I love Long Beach.
But I love Long Beach.
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 Because this is where I got my start and will continue to grow.
It's wonderful diversity.
It has awesome food festivals.
Because I like the beach.
Because of the beaches and the food.
It is a hub for all kinds of different artists of different platforms.
The great family feel.
The great food here.
For its diversity, its great neighborhoods, and its opportunities for families.
There's so much culture, art, and beauty in the city.
Because I'm born and raised here, and there's no place I'd rather be.
Welcome back. I'm Derek J. Simpson. We are here with Veronica Lewis, Director of the Homeless Outreach Program, Integrated Care System. Now, Veronica, when we went to break, you were talking about, mentoring of other organizations, but in the break we were talking about the misnomer that people think a lot of money's coming through, but you want to be sure that people understand just how things work.
Yeah, so there's a lot of important work that's going on. The infusion of dollars, in particular in the last couple of years, have allowed us to expand some of the things we're doing, but also add new things. So if I can briefly talk about some of the services provided, but also share some of the challenges we really face.
Absolutely.
Because most of the feedback we get from the community members who are not engaged in the work is, well, I don't see anybody moving off the street. In fact, I see more people. So I already described outreach. That's one of the biggest investments to just really go where people are. But some of the other things that are being funded, there's been a significant expansion of the number of people that are being kept off the street temporarily in interim housing. I've shared that number with you. And then there are actual rental subsidies that we're providing. So we help somebody find a unit. We negotiate with the landlord. We pay security deposit. We pay a portion or the whole of their rent for up to 24 months. And then we also even have eviction prevention for people who are already stably housed, but because of a medical issue or loss of wages or something like that, we'll help prevent them from getting off the street. There's a lot of people that are disabled that don't have the capacity to work, so there's a significant investment in the Social Security application assistance. And so there's a lot of moving pieces in addition to investment in mental health and addiction support for people who need that as well. Again, everybody homeless does not need that, but so those are the things we're providing. The challenges, though, are, again, the vacancy rate in LA County is significantly low, meaning that there's a lot of renters who are not attached to our programs that to a landlord may be a better or preferred, rather, candidate. And so we have less leverage saying we're going to be a third-party payer. Additionally, the rents are rising and people are not able to keep up. For the first time, we're seeing people who have been poor all their lives but have been able to sustain fallout. So the matriarchs of families, grandmas are in our lobby with their adult children and their children's children because literally the bottom has fallen out for a lot of people because the rents are rising and the incomes are not keeping up.
And I know, and to be clear, as people are watching this, you don't serve Long Beach proper, but you have kind of colleagues or sister agencies that do that. And so as people are watching, they can come to HOPEX, but there are also other organizations that they might seek out to do some of the similar services that you provide, correct?
Correct. So HOPEX, we primarily the county's broken them into 8 regions. We serve the 6th, which is all of South LA, the cities of Linwood, Compton, and most of Paramount. And we have counterparts in all of the other 7 areas. And Service Planning 8, which is Long Beach isn't part of. There's a agency, Harbor Interfaith, and a few others that focus on this area. And everything I described, they do as well.
And I would imagine they're facing some of the same issues in terms of increased rent, et cetera, that impacts their work as well.
Yes, it does. And so, I just want to say, for those of you who are seeing people, or it seems like you're seeing more people on the street, it's because more people are falling out. But just know that there is a lot of effort to send people to where those folks are. Just because you call us to go out there, that doesn't mean they're going to disappear the following day. Right. There is a process. It takes time, in particular for those people who have been homeless for decades. But there's a lot of great work being done, and hopefully those of you watching will become a part of the solution.
Now, the more I've learned about you, and the reason that we met was because we were both on the Public Social Service Commission for the County of Los Angeles. And as I've been on there longer than you, as I watched you, there are key points where you just interject this knowledge, and I'm thinking, wow, who is this woman? Because you're way deep in what you do, and you're very good at it. And you were mentioning in the break that there's going to be 760 families or households coming through your agency within the span of basically 2 days. Tell people about that.
Sure. So as I mentioned, in crisis housing, interim housing, meaning we're 100% paying for people to temporarily stay in shelter. Family homelessness is the biggest subpopulation that's growing. By family, we mean there's at least one child in the household. And so on any given night, HOPEX is keeping 2,400 people off the street. When their heads hit the pillow, they're hitting the pillow, not the sidewalk, because of us. And so part of that includes 760 families.
Wow.
Yes, 760 families. About 45% of them are in motels, and the other are in like these site-based crisis housing. And so, because there's limited resources, and because on average these families are staying in our interim housing for more than a year, for the last few months we've been really trying to figure out like what can we do different. Let's be creative and figure out if there's a way for us to help people self-resolve. And so, but today and tomorrow we have, today and tomorrow we have all 760 families coming in, and we're having conversations about what are your real options so we can move you to the next phase in life. But yeah, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of need. There's a lot of vulnerability. And so,
As
trying to
they
do our
express
best.
those needs, I mean, I know you don't have just a menu that you could just go down and make it happen right away, but what's the process that you would go about as you address those needs, kind of aligning the resources with the need?
Right. Well, again, the rental subsidy obviously is most people want that, right?
Right.
But we're capped out, so we
Right.
can't attach most people to that. And so that's part of why we're doing this, right? We want to understand, do you have other people in your network that you could possibly live with or
Okay.
pay half the rent with? Are there some skills we can help build, which is why we're doing like credit repair workshops and money management and job readiness and entrepreneurship and even healthy relationships and just all these things that we think all these skills and information that we think may help people kind of navigate. But that's the kind of conversation, those are the types of conversations we're having now. Like, what are some additional supports outside of rental subsidy? Because there's a cap
Right.
on how much we have that we can do to move you out of this interim housing and more stabilize your family. It's not easy.
No, I can't imagine that it is, and it's the effect rather than the cause. And it sounds like you're trying to address more of what's the cause of them
Right.
being in that situation. And as you said, you're not able to do it all on your own. And so when you talk workforce development or financial literacy and all those things,
Right.
that's where the partners come in, I would imagine, correct?
Correct.
And how would an agency like a Long Beach Community Action Partnership or maybe some other nonprofit or a person who's working with a nonprofit that's watching this interview get involved? I mean, what's that process to say, well, hey, I can teach entrepreneurism. I wonder how I could help out some of those families that Veronica was talking about, or whatever the case may be.
Right. Those are the partnerships we're looking for, in particular as we roll out this robust programming of all these workshops. And so, obviously, if you have expertise and we have a budget for it, we can pay you for it. But if you're willing to donate your time, we'll take it. And so if you have some life skills or some technical skills that you think that you would help better equip our families, just contact us. I don't know if you'll put our
Yeah, we'll
information
have
up
your
on the
information,
screen.
yeah.
But yeah, reach out to us because that's the type of partnerships we're looking for, because we do have a limited funding.
Right,
So we're looking
right.
for in-kind support.
And that's another example of somebody starting where they are with what they have
Right.
to get involved, be it an individual or be it an organization to help you. And then you said you're also engaging the homeless people that you do serve in terms of turning around and providing services, because they know how it felt to be on the other side of that situation. So you're covering all the bases. What do you feel like as we speak right now? There's so many barriers, but what are some of the greatest ones that you wish you could address immediately to help you get some exponential growth in what you're trying to accomplish?
So if we could really understand, or we can really bring owners and landlords on board, because obviously you can't permanently house people without a place for them to go, and really and I understand the risk involved for landlords, right, after our subsidy ends. And so if we could really figure out a way to engage them and come up with a solution where they would really be willing to put up more of their units, their vacant units for our efforts, I think that would be amazing. I think the second barrier, honestly, there's some part of why we're doing the workshops is because we're trying to, and some of the workshops include targeted topics for youth. I didn't say that. Is because there's a high probability that somebody that's experienced homelessness as a child will also experience it as an adult. And so we're trying to do things to try to stop the generational cycle of poverty, of certain mindsets, and we're trying to teach some skills and maybe open up some new worlds even for the young people. If their parents are just kind of set in their ways, we're trying to expose the young people that are under our care so that we can prevent 15 years down the road them walking through our doors as well for the
Seeing
same
some of the
reason.
same faces.
So,
I'd be remiss, Veronica, if we didn't talk about the Public Social Service Commission that we're
Okay.
both on. So we only have a couple of minutes, but what inspired you to get on that commission, and what excites you about the ability to work with other colleagues throughout the county to make a difference like we are?
I'm very honored to be a county commissioner, and public social services is so close to the work that we do. As you might imagine, a significant number of the single adults and families that we serve are connected in some way, whether it be through cash benefits, food and nutrition benefits, and so firsthand we see a lot of the barriers, and we see a lot of the great work and gaps that DPSS fills, obviously, but also we see some of the barriers and some of the hoops that our clients have to jump through to try to really sustain those benefits. And so I'm very grateful to sit on the commission and bring the perspective of the ground level experience that many of the participants that come through DPSS have, but also I think just to learn and see, can we improve the largest social services agency in the entire county, like, can I be a part of making us really client-centered and client-driven, and can my expertise and perspective help drive that? And I think we're moving in that direction, which is really exciting. Our new director, she's driven and she's progressive, and so, I'm just grateful to be a part of the process.
Right. Elevator pitch. Why should anyone watching be even more engaged and supportive of HOPIX in 20 seconds or less?
Everybody deserves a place to lay their head, and the work that HOPIX is doing, all the different things we're doing, is designed to restore humanity, treat people with dignity and respect, and restore their hope. And so you can be a part of literally restoring somebody's hope just by getting involved in this work.
Couldn't have said it better. Thank you so much. We're out of time, but certainly not out of questions, and we'll have to get you back another time.
Okay.
I'd like to thank our guest, Veronica Lewis, for joining us on today's show. Be sure to follow PatNet TV on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest updates. We also welcome your comments and thoughts regarding this show as we strive to make Long Beach Lands a favorite source of local news, information, and entertainment. This show has been brought to you with support from the Long Beach Community Action Partnership. Thank you for watching Long Beach Lands.